Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Altaviz Munnings, your moderator for this event. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you're here in person or you're joining us online through our social media platform via Zoom, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of you. The University of the Bahamas plays a vital role in shaping national development, and the selection of the next president is a decision that carries far-reaching implications for our country's future. What happens at UB impacts all of us. Today, we are very pleased to announce one of the finalists for the presidency, Dr. Leroy Hamilton, Jr. With over 30 years of combined progressive experience in higher education, Dr. Hamilton has successfully navigated community college and university environments, including serving as a SACS COC accreditation liaison and securing significant grant funding. Now, everyone, this session is an opportunity to explore Dr. Hamilton's vision for UB and to understand how his leadership could advance the university's mission during this pivotal time in its development. As we engage in dialogue, and we want all of you to engage in the dialogue today, I encourage you to approach the decision with open minds, thoughtful questions, and a shared commitment to UB's bright future. Now, for those of you who are here in person, I just have one favor. I please need all of you to place your cell phones on silent or vibrate or simply turn them off as we begin this very advanced discussion. Let me warmly welcome Dr. Hamilton as he shares his vision and insights for UB. Dr. Hamilton?
Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by thanking the search committee for carving out this time for us to have a dialogue and for you to learn a little more about me and for me to learn a little about you based on the questions that you asked for me. I am Leroy Hamilton, Jr., and my reason for being here today is twofold. The first reason I'm here is obviously that I want to be the next president of the University of the Bahamas. The second reason I'm here is even more important than the first reason, and that is I want you to want me to be the president of the University of Bahamas. So with that in mind, it is with delight that I carve out this time and I share a little bit with you about my background and serving in this critical role at this really critical time in the history of this institution. I would like to begin by sharing that I started my journey in higher education some 34 years ago, having served at a minority serving institution as a first-generation student. I share that with you is because today you're looking at someone that has a very similar background of the profile of students that we serve here at UB. I was a student that came to higher education as a first-year generation student, one who could possibly be classified as an at-risk student, one who arrived with my parents not necessarily understanding how to help me navigate the rigors of college life, one who could have possibly stopped out of school because of not being prepared as faculty members would want me to have been prepared. But, colleagues, it was because of the strong support systems that were in place, I stand before you today applying and sharing my credentials to be the next president of the University of Bahamas. My focus is really about prioritizing student success. My experience as a student, my experience during my undergraduate years, I had a lot of mentors there. I started as the Student Government Association president, where I've actually worked with the president to actually come up with initiatives that will ultimately make our students' lives very, very enjoyable. So student success is very, very important to me, and that is my commitment as the next president. But let me tell you a little bit about my background. I know you say get onto it. I have come to you today because I realize that leadership is more than about a title. It's about having the skill set to galvanize individuals and to move an institution forward collaboratively to ultimately support what we all can agree upon, and that's the mission of our institution. When I look at the leadership profile, I realize that not only are the activities that we have going that's going to drive development, I focus on the mission. the existence as to why we are here. And our mission said that we are committed to providing access to higher education. We are committed to working with faculty to ensure that there's academic freedom. We are committed to making certain that our instructional programs develop students so that they can go back into the community and drive economic impact. And we're committed to work as a university and as a community to build character through teaching, learning, scholarship, and service. That is my commitment as the president of University of the Bahamas. I was corrected, I was saying University of Bahamas, but University of the Bahamas, to make certain that we push our institution forward. What is your vision? I think that this is a very exciting time for the University of Bahamas. We have 3 priorities that I think we can all work in tandem to move our institution forward. The first I just shared with you was the mission. The second is we already have a strategic plan that's expanded from the previous strategic plan that tells us where we're going to be and what we plan to do during the next 2 years. We also have a development plan. I have read that Vision 2040 that also showcases what our priorities should be or what we will collaborate to do during the next 40 years or so. So with that, I bring this extensive leadership background with me to help us drive those initiatives forward. So let me share a little bit about that. I have served as every rank in the academy. I started as an adjunct faculty member. I became an instructor. I was promoted to an assistant professor. I participated in the tenure process, and I became a tenured associate professor, all the way to a tenured full professor at several institutions. I'm sharing that with you because that speaks to my level of commitment to teaching and learning, scholarship, and service. I've also then crossed over to administration, and I served as a coordinator of co-curricular and curricular activities, where my primary job was to think about the student experience and make certain that our curricular activities married our co-curricular activities. I served as an executive director of a first-year experience, which was an orientation experience. We had a great job with getting our students to our institution, but retaining them and transferring them to the next level as being a sophomore, we had some problems. This particular unit assisted with that. I've served as an academic dean, not at one, but at a couple institutions, where I work with faculty to come up with distinguished programs that benefited our students and land them a job and made them career ready or prepared them for graduate studies. I've also served as a vice provost of academic affairs, a vice provost of faculty affairs, a vice provost of institutional effectiveness. I've served as a provost and a vice president of academic affairs at 2 institutions, and I also served as a special assistant to the president, where I worked on special projects to move our institution forward. This is an extensive background that I bring, and I'm committed to sharing with the community of the University of Bahamas to move our institution forward. But wait, I also have experience as an accreditation background. I understand that the University of the Bahamas have submitted an application from SAC-COC where we are trying to be approved so that we can demonstrate that we are offering a quality education to our students. I've worked with SAC-COC for over 15 years on off-site committees, on-site committees. I've served as a SAC-COC liaison, where not only submitting applications, but leading an entire institution through reaffirmation of accreditation. I understand what the 14 principles are, and that's why I'm invited to annual meetings at SACS to give 3-hour workshops on helping institutions prepare of organizing and executing a compliance certification report. I've also worked as the director of our QEP, working with our faculty and our staff to identify an opportunity that will make our students' experience even more rewarding. So why is this accreditation so important to me? And why should it be important to you? It does 2 or 3 things. Number one, it makes us look at what we do. It gives us an opportunity to ask the questions, why do we do what we do? And it also gives us the question or an opportunity to say, what can we do to make things better? That is continuous improvement. And so with these skill sets that I bring with you, and when I look at your leadership profile, it just aligns well. I am the missing piece. And so I welcome this opportunity, and I thank you for this opportunity to share my background. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Here are the questions and answers. Here how this event will flow today. Dr. Hamilton has chosen to stay at the podium. So if you have any questions while you're here, you can speak directly to Dr. Hamilton at the podium. But we'll begin taking questions from those who are here in the room. And then we will be taking questions from online. Hi to our online viewers on Zoom and Facebook. And additionally, we've received a number of thoughtful questions through our online portal, Dr. Hamilton, so we'll be able to use our time as effectively to address as many of those questions as we can. Now, I kindly ask everyone to please keep your questions and responses brief. We only have a limited time, and we want to make sure we can get as much information out of Dr. Hamilton as we can. Now, for those of you in the room, you can use the microphone located here in the aisle and introduce yourself before asking your question, and please ask one question at a time. So, Dr. Hamilton, you ready?
I'm ready.
That's wonderful. Who's going to be first? Who wants to go first here? Anyone? Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Camille Smith. I'm a counselor at the University of the Bahamas. And my question is a personal one to you, sir. What makes you want to come to the Bahamas to be the president at the University of the Bahamas? What's the driving motivation for you?
So thank you for that question. That question has been asked through all of the special interest groups that I've met with, and I think it's a very, very good question. The question is, why the University of Bahamas? That's basically it. Why the University of Bahamas? And so I almost transfer the question back to you, is why not the University of Bahamas? I've shared the extensive background that I have, that I will be bringing with me. And so when I think again about our mission, when I think again about our strategic plan, when I think again where we're going for the next 30, 40 years, and when I think about my background and what I can bring to it to work in tandem with the community, it's just a great fit at this particular time. I'm committed to the mission, all right? When you look at my body of work, you will see evidence that what we have outlined in the mission for this institution, my body of work supports it. And I think why will bring some things to us to think about as far as we're trying to provide an environment for student success, when we're trying to provide an environment that's going to help drive economic impact, and when we think about building character university-wide, I bring those skill sets to the table, and I think it's a perfect match at this time in the university's history.
Anyone else in the room?
No pressure.
Well, while we wait for someone else, Dr. Hamilton, in the room to ask a question, I want to field you a question or two from our online portal. We'll start with questions on vision and institutional growth. What specific areas at the University of the Bahamas do you think offer the biggest opportunities to evolve, and what strategies would you implement for improvements?
Sure. Well, thank you for that question. I would like to begin by sharing with you that I am a very strategic thinker, and I process things probably differently than a lot of individuals would like. So I process things like that. In order for me to really answer that question as president, I would need to do a needs assessment as far as where are there gaps and where are there opportunities as far as prioritizing how we're going to move our institution forward. But to answer your question as far as opportunity is concerned, I really believe that accreditation is going to be a game changer for the University of Bahamas. It's going to give us an opportunity to align our processes and our internal infrastructure. It's going to give us an opportunity to align our support that we have at satellite campuses to make certain that those students who are on satellite campuses receive the same student experience as individuals on campus. But more importantly, what accreditation will do is it will give us 14 principles to elevate what we do. Accreditation is not about individuals, It's about making improvements so that our students have the best experience that they can have at this institution. And I'm committed to doing that. When we think about SAC-COC particularly, we have 3 bites of the apple to be successful and to demonstrate compliance with our with our reaffirmation of accreditation. So we know that there's a compliance certification report that everyone at the institution has to be engaged in, not one person, okay? Because we know the first principle of SACs is integrity. And it's a peer review process that requires everyone at the institution to be involved in developing this compliance certification report. So the first bite, once we submit the compliance certification report to demonstrate all the wonderful things that we're doing at our institution, we have an on-site committee that will come and comb through our report and to identify if there are any gaps that we may need to address for continuous improvement. And then after we address those issues or those matters or those opportunities, then we have an on-site review where individuals will actually come on campus and look at our infrastructure, but more importantly, look at those things that they have identified that will make us better. So we have a second bite of the apple to get this done. And if by chance there's a situation that there's still some things that we need to do or to adjust, we have a third bite of the apple, which is our focus report, where we talk about what we plan to do to address those areas that we may not have addressed. For instance, if we have not been accustomed to developing or collecting data, assessment data to demonstrate improvement, we can't make that up at the last minute. But the focus report gives us an opportunity to share with the commission what we plan to do to make certain that we satisfy those areas of concern. And then, of course, at the annual meeting, which hopefully you will see me at because I present them all the time, the commission will vote on our existence as far as the approval for the compliance certification report or reaffirmation. Let me share this with you again. We are claiming that we are going to be approved by SACs. Would you agree? Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Okay? And we know that once we do this, we have a decennial review that takes place for the next 10 years, meaning in 10 years, the institution then has to come back to demonstrate compliance in all those areas. But the University of Bahamas only have 5 years. We won't have 10 years. We would only have 5 years to get our institution in compliance with all 14 standards. So therefore, you need someone that can hit the ground running. I'm your man. I'm that person. So the compliance certification report goes beyond filling out an application. You have to have someone with the skill set, understanding the principles, and understanding how to galvanize a team to work in tandem to demonstrate the wonderful things that we do at this institution. So to answer your question, I think an opportunity that we have here is to making certain that we are successful with our request for approval for the Southern Association of Universities and Colleges Commission on College.
Well, you answered one question that came up to me because I wasn't sure exactly what SAC-COC means, so thank you so much for explaining that.
I figured you were going to ask me that.
Yeah. This question may be similar to some of the answers that you just provided, but students want to know, what do you consider as the 3 most important areas of focus as the next president of the University of the Bahamas?
A focus?
Yes.
Oh, good. So, by the way, I must say that I've enjoyed my time meeting with all the special groups, including the Board of Visitors. But it was something about my meeting with the students, that last session that I had was the best, so you all are in competition. The students really, really did well. So much so I ended up going down to the Student Center to eat chicken with them and to talk about some of their experiences. So I'm really, really happy of that. As I shared with the students when this question came about, and I shared with you at the very beginning of this, I'm a very, very strategic and a process-oriented leader. And so it will require me to establish a platform where students can give me feedback on their experience here at the University of Bahamas. So I could tell you 3 or 4 things, but it really isn't meaningful until I have informed information to make informed decisions to determine how we prioritize our efforts to address those three things. But let me share with you, just to answer the question. One of the things that I think is very important is for students to be able to give us feedback on what they're doing in the classroom and what they do outside the classroom. How can we provide an environment for that? I'm glad you asked. Every student that takes a course should have a course syllabus for each course that outlines the learning outcomes of that particular course. We must give our students, and not only that, it's a standard for SACS, but we must give our students an opportunity to give us feedback on their experience in that particular classroom. We must give students an opportunity to give us feedback on the instructional pedagogical strategies that faculty members may be using as far as methods to dissect information in our classroom. You know, our students have many, many, many different learning styles. So are our faculty equipped to dissect the information so that students can make it palatable and digest and use it to move forward? Our students will be able to tell us this at the end of each course if they're given an opportunity through student evaluations. When the student members or our students go to our services, right, there could be possibly a bar or scan that they can scan to share their experience with that particular person or that engagement with that particular office that speaks to customer service, all right? So you probably have already realized that my priority as a leader is to provide the #1 student experience, and I practice this in the archipelago. Why is that experience so important? Because a happy student becomes our #1 recruiter. When a student is happy with their services, when they're happy with their teaching and learning environment, they go out and say great things about what's going on our campus. But when a student is unhappy, they equally share this. We have to make certain that this experience that students have is palatable and making certain that they enjoy what they're doing. The one thing that you don't want, or I would not want, as your president, see, I've spoken this into existence, is to have a student glad to end their relationship with the institution because of their experience. We want them to be happy because a happy student is going to come back and give, right? Because they want the next generation to experience the wonderful programs, the wonderful faculty, the wonderful support that they receive, and then they will give back in a very meaningful way. So I shared that with the students during the last piece, that we will give them an opportunity to give us feedback because they're giving us firsthand feedback. This is not something that we're reading. This is a student who has experienced something in our classrooms or in our service unit. That's very, very important to me.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. I understand there's someone who wants to give a question. Ms. Lundy?
Good afternoon, Dr. Hamilton.
My friend.
Tamika Lundy, yes. Currently, our female to male student ratio is 3-to-1. How would you increase male participation in higher education here at your University of the Bahamas?
Thank you. Thank you for claiming that. So I had an opportunity to visit some classrooms today. And one of the things that I asked, I can't think of the instructor's name. She was in the nursing department. Curtis. Okay. Curtis. I noticed that when I looked in there, I didn't see one male. My grandmother would say, "Nan male," in that room. So we know that this is really a challenge when it comes to higher education as to why are our males not coming or taking the opportunity to experience higher education. So that's a challenge. But then the question becomes, for the men who actually decide to come to higher education, what are we doing for them to support them? So I could tell you what I've done in the past. I created a male mentoring program, and I called it the League of Extraordinary Men. I made them feel real good. You all are extraordinary. And every month, we would meet at 7 o'clock in the morning. I called it the Breakfast Club. And I would have individuals who were mentoring these men, and they were different people all across campus, our vice president of student affairs, our registrar, all the men that were good role models for our students were a part of this. Everyone knew my student population because every Thursday they showed up in a bow tie. So all the faculty members know you must be one of Leroy boys, all right? And if they had issues, they would channel them right back to me because they knew that we were teaching our gentlemen how to be disciplined and how to navigate this thing called life. So many people will say, well, Leroy, why in the world would you have them meet at 7 o'clock in the morning? I think it's a good practice because oftentimes when you're sleeping, others are meeting, strategizing, and getting things done. After having a healthy breakfast and probably a workout, this is all healthy, all right? So we have to monitor and demonstrate the behaviors that we want our young men to have when they leave this institution. And so that mentoring program became very, very important, so much so that I was able to get money from our board because our men in this particular group was outperforming many of the individuals in the honors groups and all these other special organizations. So this kind of support worked. And so I'm an advocate of male mentoring, and I hope that you all will be as well.
One other question, sorry. The university's mission comes alive in the lives of people and communities. How would you make the mission of UB and the activities of UB come alive in the communities that are around the boundaries, for instance, of our Oaksville campus here?
Okay, I'm going to ask you to ask me that again because I didn't process what you're asking me.
How would you take the university outside of its walls into the communities that are around its boundaries?
Okay, good. I tell you how we can do this. One of the strategic plans, or one of the strategic strategies, is that we're going to drive development. I call it economic impact. And the way we do that is to make certain that we are preparing our students for degrees and to be career ready. We want our students to have a wonderful experience because when they go out in the community and get their jobs, we want people to be proud that they're hiring someone from the University of Bahamas. We're going to make certain that our curriculum embeds soft skills so our students understand what those are, right? I know that there's a phenomenon that we're going into STEM and things of that nature, which is great, all right? But it's okay to have the technical skills, but if you do not have the soft skills, you can't get to the job. So we want to make sure that our curriculum embeds soft skills and prepare our students to go out in the world and in our economy to make sure that they are representing the University of Bahamas well. As a president, you want to make certain that I'm going to churches, funerals, Church of God services, and all those areas because I will be the face of the institution. Right? And so when I'm the face of the institution, I want to be able to go out and talk about those distinguished programs that we have. I want to be able to talk about the distinguished faculty that we have. I want to talk about the progress of our students, where they're landing internships and things of that nature. Communities get engaged when there's a winning team. Everybody wants to be a part of a winning team, right? So let me just switch it just a little. I've had the opportunity to read some data, and I noticed that in 2020, our four-year graduation was 3%. That's not much engagement, right? So we have to get our community engaged to come back to act as mentors. We have to get advisory boards in our areas so that individuals, particularly our instructional programmers, will know what kind of skill sets the community is looking for. And we also want to make sure that on the weekend, when I'm the president, every weekend you see me, when I go to the grocery store, I'll be wearing a University of Bahamas shirt. Why? Because I'm proud of what we do, and I'm committed to the mission, as you said, of what we do. And my presence will demonstrate that. So it can't just be lip service, right? We have to demonstrate. We have to model the type of person we want to be. We have to model so that the community can embrace and respect us for that powerhouse that we are. And that's the University of the Bahamas.
Dr. Hamilton, we have quite a number of persons online watching you today, and they're fielding several questions. First, they want to know if you believe in promoting staff members internally. Has any of your immediate staff in the past been pushed to become a leader, as the students want to know if that shows that you have leadership skills in some type of way.
Okay. Now, I want to make certain that I am addressing questions and giving you adequate feedback based on my perspective. So if you will just ask me one question at a time, because I get really confused very easily. So which one of those questions do you want me to respond?
Do you believe in promoting internally, staff
Sure.
internally?
Yes. I believe that our talent that we have on the campus is very, very important. And I also believe in development, okay? So I don't want to just have a faculty and staff here, but we also have to provide an environment where we are developing our staff and our faculty so that they too can be the individuals giving this wonderful experience to our students. However, every job that we have at the institution should come with a job description. It should come with the requirements for the job, the expectations of the job, and the credentials required to demonstrate your being the expert in that particular area. So therefore, I do believe in promoting faculty and staff, if you will, but I do not believe in just giving a job because you look good. You have to have the skill set. You have to have the credentials. You have to be able to demonstrate that you can perform the performance measures. So I'll be working with our HR department to make certain that we have an evaluation process in place so that we are not only evaluating our faculty and our staff, but we are giving them feedback on what they need to do to be better. And not only are we giving them feedback, but we're also providing the resources so that they can develop in those particular areas so they can continue to produce and help us offer the #1 student experience. All right, so development becomes very, very important. I believe all positions should be competitive, right? So it's not based on who you know, what you know, and I believe in outcomes. When I look at the graduation rate, I know that there's some problems, not some problems, but some opportunities that we can have in academic affairs. That is nothing to be proud of. When I think about the national or the regional retention rate, that in most cases in the 80s and 90%, and ours is in 60 to 70, something's going on. Why aren't our students coming back? Is this experience that they're having in the financial aid making them say, I'm out of here? And that's just an example. I'm not saying there's any problems with financial aid. I'm just using it as an example. But we have to make certain that when we start thinking about enrollment, retention, and student success, it's all in what we do eternally. So therefore, the human resources have to be provided the resources for development so that they can stay contemporary in the services that they offer.
Students in the online forum, Dr. Hamilton, also want to know, what will you do to strengthen alumni relations?
I understand that the University of Bahamas is 51 years old. Is that right? 50 or 51? 51, okay, 51 years old. And so therefore, where we are at this state of the institution, it took us 51 years to get there. 51 years to get there. And so therefore, it's going to take us some time to make certain that we can elevate some of those areas that we would like to elevate. All right, and the second part of the question?
What would you do to strengthen alumni relations?
Alumni
Yes.
relations. So the first thing that I would do is to make certain that we start with our current students. When they graduate, I love this activity that we have. We create a spirit or a culture of alumni giving back before they cross the stage. We have a ceremony where we require each one of our students to give $1. And we induct them into the Alumni Association even before, as soon as they cross the stage and get their degrees. That's creating that consciousness of giving back to my institution. That's number one. Number two, we have to make certain that we can get our alumni engaged, all right? So we have offices to do that. So I will be the first to tell you that I can come up with a whole lot of activities that I think that will get the alumni engaged, but we have to meet with our alumni to figure out why they are not engaged. So it's kind of premature for me to say what I will do to get them engaged, not knowing why they're not engaged. So once again, that type of feedback becomes very, very important as a leader trying to have or trying to address matters of getting our alumni engaged. So we got to figure out why aren't they engaged.
Speaking of engagement, Dr. Hamilton, students want to know how would you make UB the institution of first choice for Bahamians, specifically high school juniors and seniors?
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. The University of the Bahamas, as far as the university, I think it's the only choice. Is it not? It's the only choice. So we have to make sure that this choice is palatable for our students. We have to determine what are the programs that students are interested in and making certain that those programs are, number one, leading to a degree and making them career ready. We need to make certain that we have the infrastructure that makes our university even attractive. Because believe it or not, students have so many options when it comes to what school they're going to select. We're competing against many institutions. You will agree. Yes. So we have to make certain that we are able to brand our institution to make it the school of choice. For example, when we think about Howard University, we think about medicine. When we think about Morehouse, we think about medicine, law. When we think about Hampton University, we think about pharmacy. When we think about Norfolk State, we think about teaching. What do we think about as far as a distinguished program that brands our institution here at the University of the Bahamas? You don't have to answer. Those are the kinds of things that we have to think about when we want to make our institution the institution of choice. What is it that we do well? What is it that we can deliver back to our economy, back to the nation, indicating that if a student graduates from the University of Bahamas, we can guarantee you this. This is our contribution to the economy. I can't answer those questions, but you should be able to. And if you cannot answer those questions, that's a wonderful opportunity for us to work together to figure out how are we going to brand our institution to make it the institution of choice in this nation.
The next two questions will focus on student success, retention, and access to education.
You all are tough.
What are your plans to address the barriers to education that the face-to-face modality and midday class times pose to the working student body?
When you think about retention and when you think about timely graduation, it has everything to do with course offerings. If we want our students to graduate on time, we have to offer the courses. And when I think about course offerings, and I'm going to put my president hat on, when I think about course offerings or the variety of courses that we have, it requires some studying, it requires understanding what's being offered, and it also requires what's not being offered. That is the job of a strong provost and vice president of academic affairs. I can say that because I've served as the provost and the vice president of academic affairs. Our provost has to be engaged, all right, with our majors and what the need is for our students in order for them to persist. That requires our provost to be engaged in working with our deans, and it requires our deans to be engaged in working with our department chairs to determine what courses are needed for students to graduate. That requires some time. But a very conscientious provost knows that, because you look at the graduation rate and you say, why are students not graduating? I would be saddened as a provost to know that my academic enterprise is offering a 3% graduation rate. So the provost then generates her teams, gets her lieutenants together, which are her deans, and they come up with a strategy with working with their department chairs to come up with a course offering based on students' needs, not based on when the faculty member wants to teach the course. You all can tell that I'm in the academy for a long time. I've been there. I only wanted to teach from 9 to 12. I only wanted to teach on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But that was delaying graduation because our program offerings were stagnant because we were developing a schedule based on the faculty needs as opposed to the students' needs. That provost is the person that manages that.
Dr. Hamilton, in our initial conversation, you heard that I'm from Freeport, a proud Grand Bahamian from Freeport, Grand Bahama. So this next question is about UB North. Many students in Freeport attending UB North have to continue their academic path here in Nassau at the Oaksfield campus or elsewhere. What are your plans for student retention here at UB?
Okay, so I'm hearing two questions.
I apologize.
I hear we're talking
So
about retention at UB, and I also hear we're talking about a matter at the North Campus. Which one?
Let's deal with the North Campus first. What do you want to do to ensure that students from UB North, if they can have courses that are offered here in Nassau, to be offered in Freeport as well, so they wouldn't have to travel here to Nassau to complete their degree program?
Good, good, good. And I continue to go back to this because I really believe that the University of the Bahamas is really on a good track. Once you get accredited by SAC-COC, that becomes null and void. Ask me why.
Why?
Because there's a substantive change form that we have to submit and we have to comply to. And that substantive change policy requires our institution to offer the same services that they have on main campus and the satellite campus. It offers the same faculty, highly qualified faculty, that you have on main campus. It has to mirror what you have on your satellite campus. It offers the same support systems that we have on main campus that you have on the satellite campus. So if we're offering a degree and the student is taking a certain percentage of their program at that site, we don't have a choice if we're going to remain accredited, which is really an opportunity, right? Because we want our students at our off-site campus to have the same rich experience that the students on the on-site campus have. So when I go to the North Campus on tomorrow, I expect to see the Omegas. I expect to see the Alphas and the Kappas and the Deltas and the AKAs because I saw them all today. Do those students get that opportunity to have that campus life experience? That's a question for you. That's a question for me as the president to consider. How do we make certain that these services and these offerings and our off-campus satellite or off-campus satellite programs or students don't feel subpar? I have an answer to that, but I won't give it to you until I become the president. Let me get serious. My wife told me to make sure I don't joke. Be serious. But you all see, that's my personality. I will tell you as your leader, we work hard, but we play hard. And you have to enjoy what you're doing. You're looking at somebody that works. I'm working in my passion. That's why I can look at each one of you in the face, because I'm confident about my leadership. I have a track record of success, and I know that we can work together to move our institution forward. And so I don't come here as an arrogant person at all. I come in here embracing the Bahamian culture, having two surrogate parents that live in Cat Island, having a brother and two sisters that live in Freeport, and a niece, two nieces and a nephew. I share with someone as soon as I get to Freeport, I'm going to Pepper Pot.
Oh, yeah.
Get my chicken in a bag.
Oh, yeah. Plenty ketchup and hot sauce.
There you go. Standing in that line. So my point is, I embrace the Bahamian culture, all right? But I do think that with this extensive background that I bring, it's going to help elevate and make our culture even more palatable. So let me get ahead of one of the questions that I know that's coming. Culture. See, I knew it. Someone was culture. So I've shared a little bit about my understanding about culture, but let me allow my English background to kick in. Culture is a noun, and culture describes a group of people's behaviors, ideologies, and beliefs. One person cannot change a culture. That's how deep and serious culture is. One person cannot necessarily change a culture on a campus, so I differentiate the two, the Bahamian culture and the campus culture. My role as your president, you want me to elevate the campus culture because it is very obvious I am not Bahamian. Even though I have Bahamian folk that I claim as my family and all, I'm not Bahamian. But what I do bring is a variety of skill sets and a variety of experiences that will enhance the culture at this institution. I encourage you, this is my plug, to go to LeroyHamiltonJr.com and you will see the evidence that I'm talking about. So I'm not just giving you lip service, I'm talking about the success rates and the evidence that you will see that my leadership has resulted in.
We have a question, Dr. Hamilton, from one of the attendees here in the room.
Good afternoon. My name is Astronique Bow. You mentioned that you have a proven track record. Can you share with us 3 of your successes over the course of your career that you are most proud of, and how will those experiences help to shape your success here at University of the Bahamas?
Sure. So I know what's going to help me get this job. I was assigned to an institution that had 36 recommendations when it comes to accreditation. They were about to lose their accreditation. And so I was asked to actually go to this institution. It was in a rural area. I'm used to a cosmopolitan and a metropolitan area. So to think about going to a rural area where I just see cows and stuff of that nature, it just wasn't of interest to me. But I have not found an institution that I do not love. And I have not found an institution where I could not extend my passion to. And that institution was going to lose accreditation because they had 36 recommendations. I was able to galvanize our faculty and our staff and the president and the administrators to come up with a strategic plan on how to address those gaps or those non-compliant issues so that the institution can regain or maintain their accreditation. I shared with you earlier that leadership is not about a title. It's about having the wherewithal, the stamina, the skill set, the personality to lead individuals to successes. That's what leadership is about. So I don't come with all the answers, but I come with a sincere passion to want to help the institution continue to thrive. So I will say to you, that's one, I know. The great thing about this is I'm standing before you because I am not lobbying for a position. The best time to look or research or search for a position is when you have a position that you're extremely happy in. I am extremely happy and comfortable in my skin in the position that I am here today. But I give my commitment to this institution to make her better. So number one, that institution ended up regaining their reaccreditation with only 3 recommendations. I told you we had 3 bites of the apple. So on the on-site piece, it was very easy. One recommendation was we had a faculty member teaching, an adjunct faculty member teaching, who had a music degree that was teaching pre-law. That was easy fix, right? Because we know that the standard and the principle is that in order to retain and recruit highly faculty member, we want the best in front of our students. So the individual has to have a terminal degree, as I aforementioned, in the content area that they're teaching, or a graduate degree with 18 credit hours. We want our students deserve the best in front of them. So that's one. The other thing that I'm really, really proud of is the faculty handbook. I was able to work with our faculty as a provost and vice president of academic affairs to actually streamline our handbook to make it more palatable and supportive of faculty members. So that's number 2. So it did a lot with our faculty morale and things of that nature. But the other thing that I share with the other group is that I'm very, very proud of is as provost, at our opening session, I always talked about the faculty, how wonderful the faculty are, what they're doing, and things of that nature. And I had a young lady that was at the institution for 48 years approach me as provost and say, you know, the faculty can't do their jobs without the staff. And I had an epiphany, an aha moment, because that is so true, in that we want to make sure that our staff feel valued. And so I was able to come up with funding to develop a resource for our staff, in addition to our faculty, to be developed and be those experts in those particular areas. Because we want the best services for our students, so we have to invest in our students, so in our staff. So one of the things I will tell you is that I'm a firm believer that when you start thinking about priorities, everyone knows where your priorities are, because the only thing you have to do is look at your checkbook. If you look at my checkbook, you know I love to eat, because I have many swipes where food is. That is my priority, okay? So those are the three things that I would think about to answer your question, as far as, you know, the question that you've asked me over here.
Dr. Hamilton, another question from our online audience is whether or not you will have an open door policy to hear the concerns of faculty without union involvement.
The answer you want to hear is yes, okay? But that comes with a clause. All right, I'm a very organized, I have an A-type personality, so I'll let you know that when I become the president. You know that President Hamilton has an A-type personality. So I don't thrive in chaos. Now, I do understand that as a leader, sometimes you can't plan. Things happen, and you cannot necessarily stick to that agenda. But I don't thrive in chaos. So while I do have an open door policy, the open door policy is managed in that if there's an opportunity and a space for you to get on the calendar so that we can have open dialogue, I welcome that opportunity, all right? Because it gives me an opportunity then to do some research if there's a problem, and to give you some substantive feedback based on your issue. So does it mean I do not want to meet with anyone? No, that's not the case. All right? Because even faculty members have office hours. Students just come up to their class, hey, I need to talk to you. It doesn't work that way. So I do not focus or function or process or thrive in organized chaos. And that's just my personality. So while I do have an open door policy, and I will encourage people to come and talk with me, it has to be managed in a way so that together we can create some synergy and really address your matter at hand.
Dr. Hamilton, what is your vision for university athletics?
University athletics. University athletics is a major recruitment tool for any institution, a major one. Student athletes are our leaders, but more importantly, it gives the institution exposure in a manner that no other unit could possibly give, particularly when we're winning, right? When we're winning. So my vision for student athletes, I'm not certain exactly where we are as far as the University of the Bahamas, as far as athletic conferences. I don't even know if we're in a conference, all right? Is the conference competitive? Are we competing with other NCAA competition? You know, there are a whole lot of things there. But I do believe that student athletes and the athletic department is a wonderful piece for any institution. Why? Because it's a part of our student experience. It's a part of the athlete's experience, and it's also a part of the student experience. And guess what else it does? It builds school spirit. We want our students to feel good about their school, right? We want them to cheer, rah, rah, ree, kick them in the knee, rah, rah, ras, kick them in the other knee. It builds spirit, all right? And so spirit is very, very important to me. We want to be proud. Do our students know the alma mater? At institutions that are really, really proud, every student cannot graduate without knowing the alma mater. Every time I have an event, we end with singing the alma mater. And it's something that we all can do. All of those kinds of things build school spirit, just like athletics.
Another question on student success
You're really
retention.
having all these questions.
It's a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions, sir. Do you see a need for financial assistance for students like a work-study program?
I think work study is very beneficial. Not only does it provide an opportunity to assist our students financially so that they can continue to persist, but it also gives them an opportunity to work and to build a skill set or behavior of showing up to work, being accountable, all right, completing tasks, managing time. So I don't just look at work study as the financial piece, which I think is very, very important, but the holistic piece of it is it provides an opportunity, a development for our students that we may not necessarily be able to get if they went to Wendy's or some other places. And I'm an advocate of it because I was a work study student, all right? I worked in the police department, tracking things that were going on that frightened me so much that I said, okay, I have to find another job. I can't deal with this, okay? I worked in our president's office as a work study student, so I think that it's a very valuable opportunity for our students. Again, not just for the finances, but it gives them character, building good work habits, understanding how to communicate. If I'm your work study student at the entrance and my job is to greet people, when you come in, I got to talk to you, right? And I can't just do this. I got to look you in your face and say, hey, sir, how are you doing? How can I help you? That's an experience that no textbook can't teach you, but work study can. So I'm an advocate of it. Do you all feel my passion?
Yes.
It's contagious. So when I become the president, you all going to have the same passion. Some of my friends say you have too much energy, which is probably why when I hit the bed at night, I just go to sleep. But yes, good question.
Dr. Hamilton, what's your take on expansion for research and research grants?
I am accustomed to building units which we call sponsors programs. And I do believe that our faculty have a play into coming up with grants or completing applications for grants to provide external resources to the already supplemental resources that we get from the government. But in doing that, we need to make certain that we're also fair to faculty and staff who will engage into submitting grants, that we're providing a safe space for them to be supportive in doing so. Therefore, we have to incentivize grant writing. When I talk with our faculty, I understand that we have a 4-4, what I call a 4-4 load. In order to have a full load, teaching load, you have a 4-4, you teach 4 classes. Well, you can't necessarily encourage a faculty member to write a grant, or a staff member, but we're going to talk about faculty member, to write a grant when they're teaching the 4 classes, and then when you get a grant, you know you have to facilitate that. So we have to incentivize it by offering release time to our faculty to write and facilitate grants. They're bringing money into the institution. So instead of teaching 4 classes, when you get a grant, you're only teaching 2, and you use the other 2, 50% or 25 release time to facilitate the grant. Everybody's happy. The institution is happy because you got this $1 billion grant. You're happy because you get to enjoy facilitating what you said you were going to do in the grant. Our students are happy because you're providing resources that are going to help their experience be better. It helps with retention. It helps with persistence. It helps with graduation. So this program or this unit becomes extremely, extremely important because these are individuals that actually go out and find grants and share them with faculty, email them to faculty members, hey, or staff, here's a grant. You want to try this? But not only do they email it to the faculty or staff, they provide the resources to help them write the grant. That's what you call incentivizing a collaborative effort for grant writing. So yes, I do believe that grant writing is extremely important, but I think we have to have the infrastructure to support it.
Speaking of infrastructure, there are 2 questions here on campus infrastructure and technology.
Are you a journalist?
I am a veteran journalist,
I can
sir.
tell. I can tell.
Veteran.
Because I'm an Englishman, so these transitions
Yes.
are just on point.
32 years.
Okay, good.
How would you address the challenge of weak Wi-Fi here on the campus?
Yes, so I shared with you earlier when I was asked to go to a school in a rural area to help them with their accreditation efforts. As you know, in a rural area, the Wi-Fi, you can just imagine what the Wi-Fi was. And so as I share it with you, I do not come to you as president with all the answers, but I do come to you with the ability to assemble a team that can address the areas particularly that I'm not familiar in. So that will require us to have a strong chief information officer to do an assessment of our Wi-Fi and our broadband. I only know those two words. And tell us exactly where the weak points are, where do we need hotspots and things of that nature, because they understand the technical piece. My job as president is to provide the resources so that the individuals who are doing the technical piece can install the hotspots and address the areas where Wi-Fi is weak and all those kinds of things. So I become the facilitator, right? And allowing the chief information officer to perform in his or her expertise to address spotty Wi-Fi. I can't tell you how to do that. All I know is when I turn my phone on, I hit Wi-Fi. Oh, here's one. That's it. But the person that's the expert in that area could better help us in strengthening our Wi-Fi signals university-wide.
We're going to have several more minutes, sir, to field these questions to you. We have someone here in the room who wants to ask you another question.
Good afternoon, Dr. Hamilton. My name is Shatigua Thompson, the health technician here at the university.
The head technician?
Health.
Health. Okay, good.
What are your views on the growth and development of the medical area regarding the accessibility, learning, and research opportunities for nursing students and as well the medical students here at the university?
Okay, so which one of those questions you want me to answer?
Sorry. So the growth.
So you're going to get used to my personality all around, right? So
Yeah.
everybody will be well suited when I arrive. Good.
So we're going to start off with the growth and development of the area.
Okay, let me answer that. One of the things that I've had an opportunity, and I'm really, really proud of, is being able to work with the legislator to come up with fundings to fill the gap when it comes to nurses and teachers. And so I was able to work with hospitals that donated almost $2.9 million for our nursing students, provided scholarships and things of that nature and practice areas for our nursing students so that they can persist, and it absolutely helped with their experience in that particular area. So we know that across the world, there is a shortage of nurses. Across the world, there's a shortage of teachers. People are just not interested in going into teaching anymore. I had an opportunity prior to transitioning to my first role, my current role, is helping my principal friend go into the classroom for about 6 weeks or so. I plan to do it for a good little while. But after that experience, I understand why people don't go into teaching. And so we have to address those gaps so that teaching becomes a profession that's notable, honorable, and there's some incentives of doing so. Same thing with the healthcare when we think about nurses, all right? There's a shortage of nurses. And so we have to figure out what can we do to fill this gap. I'm glad you asked. The University of Bahamas can make certain that we have programs that are training our students to be ready for the workforce. And so that requires us establishing relationships with hospitals, different medical cares, things of that nature. Bringing those individuals on campus also helps so that they can actually see our students and work with our students and share with them what they need as far as their time once they graduate from college. So I've had an opportunity to work with the legislature on coming up with resources that can build and fill those two particular areas, and that's nursing and teaching.
Okay, and the second part of that question would have been, how would you prioritize our healthcare needs at the university, and how are we going to incorporate the students or the student life into the campus?
Okay, so are we talking about student life or healthcare?
Healthcare. So when
Okay.
I say incorporating it, I mean having the students even participate in the healthcare university, prioritizing our services.
Good, good. I don't know if this is where you're going, but if I'm not, get me on point. Mental health is a serious issue among our students and even in our community. And believe it or not, mental health is serious. And it has a negative stigma to it. So you can have services for mental health, particularly at an institution, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the students are going to take advantage of it. Why? Because of the stigma that it has with it. So what we have to do is we have to do a campaign, number one, to talk about mental health in a positive light, not a negative light. You know, it is okay to get counseling. It is okay to get your mental health issues addressed. All right? Our students are very different from students or generations back in the day. Let me tell you about my dad. My dad was a veteran, and he truly had some issues when he returned. But I could not convince him that he needed mental health. Because in his mind, I'm not crazy. And that negative stigma has been placed, and it has nothing to do with being, as he would call it, crazy, right? But it has everything to do with getting the services that you need to help balance the things that are going on in our body, the things that are going on in our head. There are resources and things that can help balance that to create a better student life on campus. So what would I do on campus? Number one is to make certain that we have an environment or a space, a safe space for students to go and receive those type of services when it comes to mental health.
Dr. Hamilton, describe your approach to trust building, teamwork, and collaboration.
So as a leader, you have to have trust. Your team has to trust you. Your community has to trust you. And you don't just get that trust and respect overnight. So for the first 90 days or 100 days, when I am your president, I'm going to use that time to build those relationships with our community, build those relationships with our staff, build those relationships with our faculty, and build those relationships with our students. Because it's not necessarily what I say, it's how I treat you. And you never fail when you are a kind leader, when you're a leader that has transparent communication, when you're a collaborative leader to say, hey, listen, here is the dilemma, how are we going to fix it? As opposed to let me tell you how we're going to do that. Creating that type of environment is extremely healthy because as I mentioned with our other group, I'm a component of shared governance. We share this responsibility together. As president, I collaborate with all units to share the responsibilities on how we are going to create an environment where students can thrive. And so shared governance become extremely, extremely important to me. Now, I got so wrapped up into shared governance, I forgot what the question was.
Describe your approach to trust building, teamwork, and collaboration.
So, because I'm sharing this, you get a chance to work with me, all right? I get a chance to demonstrate my integrity. I get a chance to demonstrate some quick wins so you know that, okay, this guy is the real deal, all right, when it comes to leadership. Remember what I said at the very beginning, leadership is not about titles. It's about being able to galvanize individuals to follow. And you do not follow people that you don't trust. And that's why even in this session, you notice that I did not commit to a thing because I know that you are taking notes. And when I get this job 6 months later, you're going to say, when we interviewed you, you said you were going to do that. All right? But I work as a team. I prioritize our agendas with the team. And together we determine how we're going to prioritize our initiatives. And together we determine how we're going to address our mission and be committed to it. Together we determine how we're going to work on our strategic plan for the next 2 years to demonstrate performance indicators of success. And together we're going to work on that developmental plan to make certain that the University of the Bahamas is making a valuable impact in our community. That's my closing.
That's it?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Wasn't that great? Give me a clap.
Yes.
Clap. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
How will President Hamilton support UB's Student Government Association?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Student government plays a very important role in my life because I was the president of student government for 2 consecutive terms. And believe it or not, that's where my leadership began. There were things that I learned as a student that today I'm still using today. My president then taught me as a student government president that you have to look your individuals in the eye. That's why I can look at each one of you, right in the eye, all right? That's a skill set that I learned. But the other thing that made me very, very proud of being the Student Government Association president is I represented over 5,000 students. So I had a seat at the table with the president in the cabinet and lobbied and advocated for students. And because I was so engaged, that's why they voted for me the second time, right? Because I was so engaged, I was able to help the administration and the faculty on things that they really need to consider to make our student experience stellar. So that experience in itself was great. I met my wife in the student government, so I guess that's a plus, right? Right? So these experiences that we have as students, these experiences that we have in student government, developing our students to lead is very, very, very valuable. So go student SGA, and you always have my support, or they will always have my support. Thank you.
Dr. Hamilton, as the Assistant Provost at Hampton University, home by the sea, do you have any plans to encourage strategic partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities?
So as the Vice Provost of Academic Affairs, I think that's why I'm the missing piece to this puzzle. Because of my networks, not only with student government, and not only with Hampton University, it's with other HBCUs in the United States. I graduated as a fellow from an executive leadership institute that prepared me and my colleagues of how to be a president. That experience allowed me to have mentorships among many, 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 many presidents here. And I guarantee you, and I'm not exaggerating, today, right now, we have about 38 presidents watching this live on Facebook. Those are my mentors. Those are the partnerships that I have. I'm here today because of my mentor saying, Leroy, I think you would be a good fit for the University of Bahamas. My mentor from Sachs, the president, who visited here, came to me and said, you need to go for it. So these networks goes beyond the archipelago. They are stretched deep into HBCU land and also PWIs. And so when you think about our connections, you think about all the institutions under the Southern Association of University and Colleges, it's Commission on College. We will have that network because all of them know Leroy Hamilton. And we can build articulation agreements for things that we don't necessarily have here, that we know that will drive our economy. We can partner with those institutions and to provide that experience and that access to higher education, because that's what our mission statement said, right? Providing access to higher education for our students to continue to drive the economy and the development of this nation.
2 more questions before we end. Staff members have been long waiting for the conclusion of the Bahamas Public Services Union's industrial agreement. How would you, in your leadership role, help to move union negotiations to a successful conclusion?
So I've had an opportunity to meet with the 3 unions. That was very unique in a positive way. Just as my relationship when I worked with a school that had unions in Maryland. The purpose of the union, let me start there, is to be the voice of the selected group in which they serve. They are the advocates of those individuals to what they serve, to make sure that things are equitable, making sure that their voices are heard, and all the other things all the other great things that unions do. One of the ways that I plan to navigate that is we have to make certain that we can agree on something. That's what negotiation ultimately ends with. We agree on something. So I am certain that the three unions, as well as myself and my administration, there are three things that we have to agree on. Our mission, providing access to our students to higher ed and all those other three measures of our mission, our strategic plan, and our Vision 2040 development plan. We cannot lose focus on that. If our unions are interested in those three tentacles at this point, at this time, we're going to make some wonderful lemonade. Because at the end of the day, it's not about our special interest group. It's about moving the institution forward as it pertains to our mission, our strategic plan for the next 2 years, and our development plan. So the negotiation has to stay focused on that, right? And if we are saying that we are supporting, or all of us are supporters of UB, see, I'm even getting personal. I used to call it the University of the Bahamas. I'm saying UB, all right? We can work and create this synergy to move our institutions forward, all right? So I will share with you that I've always had positive exchanges with our faculty senate and those special interest groups. And let me tell you why. I do not major in the minor. So I'm not necessarily interested in coming here and getting into the ring and debates and things of that nature, because we're going to focus on our number one product, and that's who? Our students. And if we can all agree to that, we can all sing in the heavenly choir together. But if we have to defer from that, then I'm not your man. Because my job is not to necessarily to debate, but we're going to create a synergy together so that we can work together to make the University of the Bahamas the number one choice for students. Anything other than that, I'm not interested. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding.
Final question?
I thought you said two.
As we have a little time left, I want to
I'm
make sure
trying
you
to get off
your
this hot
answers
seat.
in.
It's hot up here.
This is going to be an easy question for you.
Okay.
There are many Bahamians residing in Virginia and throughout the United States. What are your thoughts on creating programs that encourage diasporic Bahamians to support UB financially and academically?
Okay. What does that mean?
How are you going to encourage Bahamians who live in Virginia to support UB from where they are in Virginia financially and academically?
Well, I think that the Bahamians in Virginia, if you say, there has to be some relationship. People don't give money just because they're Bahamians. People are not going to give money to the institution just because they're Bahamians. Because if that be the case, we wouldn't need the governmental support because all of you are Bahamians, right? You don't give money because you're Bahamian, all right? You give money to, or I see that we give money to institutions or to initiatives that we want to support. In order to support the initiatives, it has to be something going on. All right, I share with you about my experience at my undergraduate university. And because of that experience, and because I'm committed to the support that they had given me, every year I give that institution $5,000 for student scholarships. And it's not scholarships for just the smart students. It's the average students like myself. And so most individuals pour into what they believe in. And it's not just because you're a Bahamian. It's what we believe in. Are the individuals committed to our mission? Are the individuals committed to what we plan to do in our strategic plan? Those are the kinds of things that people give to. Donors give to. Big donors want to be a part of a winning team. So as the president, when I go out into community, I don't want to say, ask for money, and when someone asks me, well, what's the percentage of your faculty and staff and give back to the institution? How can you expect someone else to pour into us if we're not pouring into ourselves? So it's not the dollar amount, but it's the participation and the portion and the percentage to show that we support what we do here. And that has nothing to do with Bahamians, because believe it or not, the networks that I plan to bring here, that I know that will give external dollars to, are not Bahamian. So should I say to them, your money isn't good because it's not Bahamian? Of course not. So we need to shift from that a little bit. And I understand the Bahamian way. I've been told that in several, you don't understand the Bahamian way. I don't, if you're saying that a 3% graduation rate is the Bahamian way, and I don't believe that. I believe that we got so much more going, and that's only a 2024 four-year graduation rate. So I'm sure that by the time we look at the 5th and the 6th year, it will be better, but it may not be 50%. That's still dismal. So it's an opportunity for us to work together. It's an opportunity. Say, if I get this job, when I get this job, I can't wait to work with the provost, because that's my area. And I want to make certain that we're developing signature programs that's going to brand us and make sure that we have the people with the skill set and the talent in these positions to get us where we need to be. That got real quiet. You said, uh-oh. That's my passion. If we keep doing the same thing, we continue to get the same results. So we have to work together to figure out what can we do to make us better. I'm glad you asked. We think about what we do, we ask why we do what we do, and then we think about what can we do to make what we do better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it? One more? This is good, because that means that people are really interested to hear what I have to say.
They are. This is the final question for
real.
real.
Final question.
For real. How would you address providing avenues to resolve any concerns of students about faculty performance? That's the last one.
You promise?
I promise you that.
Well, let me tell you how I've been able to deal with that based on my experience. Mm-hmm. A student experience in the classroom is very, very important. And I talked about enrollment, retention, and graduation. And we have to make certain that we have a cadre of faculty members who are committed to student success. We're no longer the gatekeepers anymore. When we went to school, our faculty members were able to stand before us for a whole hour and a half and just talk. We know that our students' personalities don't even function like that. Think about when we're in church. When the preacher continues to talk, we start to do what? Until we hear the organ, then we know it's about time to go. Our students have to give we have to give our students an opportunity to provide feedback on their experience. How do we do that? Evaluations of every course at the end of the semester. Now, one student during this last session told me, I'm not going to fill that out because if it's only 2 of us in the classroom, he or she can figure out who gave her that evaluation. And I said, well, when do you fill the evaluation out? Just before the grades are due. Well, we may want to consider launching the evaluations after the grades are submitted. And if by chance we have faculty members, that's called retaliation. In the States, that's illegal. In the Bahamas, it should be unethical. Our faculty, and I do not believe that our faculty will retaliate against our students, because I'm a lover of assessment. I always wanted student feedback because it was going to let me know what I need to do better to make certain that the next students that come before me enjoy my class. That's why all of my classes were packed. You think it's my personality? I was able always to keep my students' attention, just like I got yours. We have to give our students an opportunity to provide feedback about their experience. And as the administration, or as administrators, we have to make certain that we are taking that feedback seriously, because our students are telling us what their experience is. And it's not always a bad one, right? We have to make certain that our students understand that this evaluation is not to get back at your teacher because you're upset with them, but it's to think about the learning outcomes in your course syllabus, and you get to tell us whether or not you think the instructions met those learning outcomes. And if they have not, you get to tell us what you think we could possibly do better for the next individuals coming. So feedback becomes very, very important, and I think we can do that through classroom evaluations.
Dr. Hamilton, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to extend our gratitude to everyone who participated in today's forum, whether you were here in person or online. Thank you so much for those wonderful questions that you sent on Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. UB, thank you so much for this dynamic opportunity, and thank you so much for joining us. Good evening.